yes. And with that, I'll hand it to Tyrus Kemp.
Hi, everyone. Can I get some sort of affirmation, AV team, if I'm being heard? Everyone can hear me? All right, I see some hands going up. I'm looking at the back of everyone's heads, so I apologize if things seem kind of awkward, but I also apologize for the situation coming in on Zoom. I am just got done with a 3-day intensive MBA residency for my MBA program at NC State, and I wanted to ensure that I was able to do this. So we worked something out. So please excuse background noises. I'm outside of a coffee shop and using their Wi-Fi and getting this done. So I care about this a lot, and I wanted to make sure that you guys got all the information on what's going on in North Carolina. So I'm just going to start off and tell you a little bit about myself. And the first thing to know is I'm a former Navy sailor, and I was a corpsman at 1st Battalion, 6th Marine Regiment. And I met my wife in the Navy, Diane, and so we've been married for 2.5 years now. We both got out not too long ago, and we've settled in the area and until the Lord has other plans for us. And so when we settled, I became more focused on complaining less and doing more about the state of our country. All right. I can hear someone talking. I'm just making sure we're good. Okay. I apologize about that. So long story short is kind of what Michael described about kind of getting recruited to this. And I couldn't be happier to be a part of a cause that matters so much, and for me to get to use the skills and the gifts God has provided me to do something for the least of these children, the kids among us. And so the presentation today is about parental rights, and in pretty much what their status, what parental rights' status is in North Carolina on a legislative view. And so we're going to look at this NC Values Coalition. We're going to look at a PowerPoint they created, and I don't want to take anything from them without giving them all the respect they deserve for doing this. So they created this. They have people a lot more time focused on these specific things. So I am just regurgitating what I've learned from them, and I have spent a considerable amount of time looking into this stuff, but they are the subject matter experts on this, and so this is their PowerPoint. I want to make that very clear. If we go to the second slide, if it's up there, the 3 parental right issues that are our main focus here in North Carolina are the book Obscenity in School Libraries, returning to parental rights, to consent to medical treatment for minors, and civil penalties for the enforcement of the Parental Rights Bill. And so we'll dive into this a little bit more, but just a broad overview, there are some loopholes in the law right now, which allows pornographic material into schools legally. And schools have a safeguard against parents and community members trying to remove those books out of schools. The medical right to consent for parents, the current laws actually prevent parents from consenting to prevention, diagnosis, or treatment for STDs, AIDS, pregnancy, drugs, alcohol abuse treatment, emotional disturbance. So that's an extremely wide range of things that they cannot, they can't consent to, that their child, no matter the age, has the ultimate consent. Civil penalties to enforce the Parental Rights Bill. Right now, there's plenty of school boards not following the parental rights bills, and they are defying, not just putting something into place and calling it they're following the rules. There's actually school boards across the county or the state who are just outright objecting to parental rights. If we could go to slide 4. Okay, so the North Carolina General Statute 115C, Tech 98, it requires state board to provide guidelines for advisory committees reviewing books. Then we have some that prohibit selling, delivering, and providing written or visual depictions of obscenity, and the law that creates a shield from prosecution for schools, from prosecution for disseminating of visual pornography, is that North Carolina General Statute 14 TAC 190.13. And so that is at odds. On my side is for it should be applicable statutes. Thank you. Appreciate the work. I know it's not easy coordinating this stuff, so thank you for that. And then that statute that shields prosecution from schools is directly kind of juxtaposed to the General Statute 115C, which prohibits supplementary materials from including gender identity, sexual activity, or sexuality in K through 4. So they're directly opposed to each other, and there's really a lot of schools are getting away with having pretty bad obscenities in schools for children to just access kind of at will. And so I'm going to go ahead and go to the next one will be the solution slide, and on mine it says slide 6. And so the solution is to have statutory language that says that it cannot be pervasively vulgar, it cannot violate the North Carolina pornography laws, including written and oral. So we're going directly against the shield that it allows. And then it requires screens to be on all computers owned by the school that states these things, these rules, and it allows parents to bring any objectionable book to a school board for review and a vote. And so right now, the process in many school boards, this is not all school boards, some school boards have better than others, but many of the school boards in North Carolina right now, is if you found a pornographic material in a school, you could find there's kids in here, so there could be a general magazine that we all know just through the culture connotations as in its pornographic in nature. You can find that, you still couldn't take it directly to the school board. You have to get caught up in the bureaucratic process that many of the school boards take the parents out of it altogether. Other than just submitting, saying pretty much an essay on why it's obscene and why it should be out, the parent has no other authority other than to just appeal. And a lot of times, from what I've seen, is there's technicalities that the principals and superintendents get it on, and then by the time it gets up to school board, it's 6 months later. That material has still been floating around the schools for children to see. If we could go to the slide that says NCGS 90 TAC 21.5, there'll be a highlighted section, highlighted in red, or a text that's in red. So I'm going to go ahead and just start reading this to everyone. Subject to subsection A1 of the section, any minor may give effective consent to a physician licensed to practice medicine in North Carolina for medical health services for the prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of venereal disease and other disease reported under GS 130A TAC 135. pregnancy, abuse of controlled substances or alcohol, and emotional disturbance. So this, and it says this section does not authorize include of an abortion. So that is the one case. However, a lot of this is a massive umbrella that really keep parents from having say in their child's medical medical treatment or even being seen. And so that's pretty severe. North Carolina is one of, I want to say, I don't want to butcher this, but it's one of 3 states that have it this strict, that children have this much power over their medical treatment. And especially for these what they list here, that's pretty big. Those are pretty big deals that parents need to know about. And a lot of the times, this stuff is, this stuff leads to other behaviors. And so if a parent doesn't know about this, that cycle continues. Not to mention the risk for sexual abuse, and I'm sure we can all imagine just instances where this law would protect abusers from parents. And so I'm going to go ahead and switch to implications, the slide that's labeled implications. And so, as you can see here, it denies parents' right to consent or even know about treatment. It can block a test or procedure if a parent wants it, but child does not. Access to medical records, federal privacy laws. If a child consents to the treatment, the minor, not the parent, has control over who sees the medical records. So you as a parent have to go to the child and ask the child if they can give you authorization for their medical record for those specific instances outlined in the law, which is absolutely insane. The pharmacy records, it has the same protections for minors, so pretty much the same lack of protections for parents. And then it affects on all medical records for minors 12 and over. So until 12, there is some delineation between specific instances, but in that case, it is that you have to ask for permission for all of the medical records. There's several stories in this PowerPoint. I'm not going to belabor some of these stories. I think they're very powerful. However, it would just be me reading to you, and I don't feel comfortable reading to you because I believe that all you can probably read on your own. So what I'll ask is that, Ray, if you just send this out in a email afterwards, so everyone who wasn't here can get the PowerPoint, and then everyone who was here can read through the PowerPoint and read about these instances and watch the video that's linked on one of these. And so we're going to go down to North Carolina compared to other states. And I misspoke, so it's not 3 states, it's North Carolina is one of only 15 states that allows minors to consent to certain physician-provided services with no age minimum or status condition. In contrast, 35 states have age limitations or status conditions to trigger minor consent. And then North Carolina and District of Columbia are the only 2 jurisdictions. North Carolina is the only state that allows a minor to consent to the prevention of emotional disturbance. Emotional disturbance is undefined in the statute. And so that's kind of where I got my original number. It's the emotional disturbance, which is therapy, counseling, anything of that nature. And that has massive ramifications, as worldview implications. There are so many things in there that I'm sure that we can all kind of understand that to be a negative. And so if we go to the the slide that says returning parents the right to consent to all medical treatment for their child, that slide. I apologize. Let's go ahead and go to SB 49, the Parental Authorization for Healthcare Minors section. And so in the bill NCGS 90 TAC 21 10B, except as otherwise provided in this article or by court order, a healthcare practitioner shall not provide, solicit, or arrange treatment for a minor child without first obtaining written or documented consent from that minor's child's parent. Treatment includes any medical procedure or treatment. So that's what we want. That is what is being drafted up right now. And that's what we are asking you to contact your representative, both the Senate, your senator, and your House of Representatives representative, and ask them to push this forward. And so one thing that NC Values Coalition was really hammering on is how difficult this is to pass. And this came up, I want to say they said about 10 years ago, and they had someone who was going to bring it to the floor, and they brought it through committee, and it passed through committee, and the governor, it was Governor McCrory at the time. He actually called Tom Tillis, who was the Senate, the Senate leader at the time, and he said, "We will not be voting on this. Take it off." And it got taken off the ballot, so it never got voted on because of that. And so this is a very difficult thing to pass. A lot of people worry about the doctors' union or whatever the physician group is to say, come up with all sorts of exaggerated problems that this may cause. And a lot of the times, from the individuals I talk to about this at NC Values Coalition, a lot of the concerns from doctors are very, they're the extremes. So their concerns are on the extremes, and it's not actually the majority of cases that this will help. And so because it's going to be a much greater good to pass this for parental rights, and that parental rights, as we've already stated clearly through Mike Onifer's message earlier, is that parental rights are something that are given to us by God, not by the state. And so this is something we were trying to rectify to bring in alignment with the reality of our lives. And that's the fact that we do have rights as parents over our children to raise them up. This includes in medical treatment. And so please, we have a petition that I believe someone brought. Ray, I think Ray has them, but please sign those petitions. It is for this bill, and it would be greatly appreciated. And so I'll jump down to the 6 areas slide. I apologize. Civil penalties for SB 49. We're going to civil penalties for SB 49. All right. So one of the issues is, and we were very thankful that in a Democrat-controlled executive branch in our state, that there was a parental bill of rights that got passed. Unfortunately, there was no teeth. By the time it got passed, there was no teeth to it. And it is, a lot of it is, there's some very good stuff in it, but a lot is just showing that people, you know, it's just kind of a spectacle. It's not actually changing a whole lot at the moment legally. And so while it's a good thing and we are grateful for it, there's some areas that it needs to be changed and amended, and that we need to push for further strengthening of this bill and further penalties for disobeying it. And so for one, if an employee encourages, coerces, or attempts to encourage or coerce a child to withhold information from his or her parent, there should be possibly disciplinary action in the law itself. And so right now, it just states that they shouldn't, but there's no actual language that says, okay, what if they do break this? There's nothing to suggest that. And that's necessary to hold people accountable. And then for failure of principal to provide requested information, it's appeal to the school board, and then a bar to judicial review. And so what ends up happening a lot of times is they kick it off to judicial review, knowing that parents don't have the money, time, energy to pursue that type of case, and it just gets lost in the system, takes forever. And so this is a way to force the hand of school boards to not just kick it down the road and to do it. And then for failure of principal to resolve parental concerns. And so these concerns are outlined in the bill itself, the SB 49, but hearing officer with no enforcement authority regarding decision, a cause of action with injunctive relief, no monetary damages. And then, so right now, if a superintendent and principal disobey SB 49, they can do it all day long and they're not going to face anything. And so there's a lot of ideas out there. I don't think that any one person has come up with a brilliant idea of how to fix this, but these are things we need to be working to. And then failure of teacher to obtain required consent. There's no penalties for that right now. And then for failing of a healthcare practitioner to obtain parental consent before providing, soliciting, or arranging certain medical services. So this is another area we want to ensure that we should be ensuring that children are protected. And so this actually suggests that we carry with it a possible fine for that. And then lastly, if a refusal of school board to comply, there is currently no enforcement of that, but we would like to see enforcement mechanisms put into place, into law, and amended. And all of these right now are being worked on. NC Values Coalition does amazing work, and they really are helping with outlining what can this look like, looking to other states. And they have some people who are very, very experienced with writing laws and good laws too. And so all this stuff is in the works, but we really do need representatives from around the state to take this issue up and force it to come to the table and ensure that we can have a vote on it, especially if we get Governor Mark Robinson in office. We need to be able to send something like this through and not have to worry about herding cats with a supermajority where it's going to get gutted once again. And so there's a solution side. Again, I kind of talked about that. A big one on that solution slide is that attorney's fees, court costs, and other associated costs will be pretty much the penalty for all of those will go on the school itself for failure to comply with the law. And just lastly, talk about sex education. I know there's some slides that I think Ray may cover in a little bit, but I just quickly want to just overview of this. So right now there's what's called comprehensive sex ed. This is a very graphic sex education. And Onslow Protects Our Students was actually founded on trying to keep that comprehensive sex education out of schools and out of Onslow County School District. I'll get into that in just a sec. But ultimately, what we at NCPAWS and what Joe and Tom and Mike and the other individuals part of OPAWS are really concerned about is this sexual indoctrination, this sexual education that goes directly against biblical values and the values that we know is actually reality and how life works. And so we are not against sex education. It is the primary focus though should be on risk avoidance. And so obviously abstinence is involved with that. The teaching of marriage is involved with that. And then also talking about the consequences of sex are absolutely necessary. But to have extremely graphic imagery at young ages and at any age is not okay. And the last thing that we really want to see implemented and that we believe that you should ask your representatives for is not an opt-out. So right now, parents get an opt-out. So if your kid has sex education at school, that school is going to send out a letter by whatever means that school district chooses to, it will give you the opportunity to opt out of it. Well, what we're saying is, no, parents need to opt in to this training. And so that's another area that we would like to see change in that field. And so now I'm going to ask to jump over to the other PowerPoint, and that is going to be about North Carolina Protect Our Students. One second, let me pull it up on my end. Having just a little bit of difficulties on my end. Okay, so this is North Carolina Protect Our Students. I am the CEO, Tyrus Kemp, as you all already know. But one of the things that kind of led me into this is getting phone calls from parents, from teachers about things that were going on in the school. And so I got into this by writing a blog post, and I was covering a lot of topics, and just one of them happened to be on education and about parental rights being removed from a policy at Onslow County School Board. And I made the point that even in Republican control, just because it says Republican on the name, next to the name, does not mean that they are going to have the same values as a biblical worldview and a conservative viewpoint. And so I got into this because I wrote a blog about it, and I spoke at a school board meeting, and I started having parents come up to me and call me and ask for help. And so I got the chance, the amazing chance, to defend those parents in, finding them legal defense and calling around and helping build a case, and then also help them work through grievances by policy in the school district. And so that was it's extremely difficult to tell parents of a child who has been assaulted, and the school is sweeping it under the rug, and to tell them, hey, listen, this grievance may not work. It may not, but what it'll do is create a paper trail, and we need this. And if you don't want this to happen again or to another kid, this is the way to go. And I understand if you don't want to go through all this, but it is up to you. I've also helped parents prep for school board meetings. I've helped other individuals prep for school board meetings to bring these very deep and touchy issues up in a way that empowers them. And I can't stand that word because it's a buzzword, but it really does give them the tools and the resources to do that. So it was from all of that I experienced the need to do this. And so my wife and I are not blessed yet with kids. We know that time is coming, and it will come. However, I'm involved in this because I see injustice being done. And so no amount of me not having kids is going to keep me from fighting to protect kids in school and protect parental rights. And so I just want to make that out. I know there's probably questions about if I have kids or not. And so I want to make sure I cover that initially. If you go ahead and go to the next slide. And so Mike Onifer is actually going to take this for a little bit about the history of OPAWS and kind of the founding of North Carolina Protect Our Students. I will say very briefly that Onslow Protect Our Students was created as a political action committee. And in North Carolina Protect Our Students, I'm the CEO of North Carolina Protect Our Students, which is a nonprofit, and we are working into the 501c3 status. We are not there yet, but those are very key distinctions. That political action committee gets involved in campaigns. They help support candidates who we believe are going to stand up for our values. And then North Carolina Protect Our Students, separate entity, separate organization, is about going into the community, activating the community, kind of like this in different areas around these issues. And so I'll turn it over to Mike for a little bit so he can kind of outline how we got here.
So how we got here was there was an initiative to, waive some money in front of Onslow County for some different programs, and the way that the county was going to get the money was by accepting funding for the bad sex ed education. And so what happened is, now this is very intentional and very devious. And so this organization took statistics from Onslow County and tried to present the case that Onslow County had a teen pregnancy problem. But what they did is they took statistics from the base where you had married teenagers. So these were married women that were having children, and they're saying you have a teen pregnancy problem. So it's one person did some research, went to the meetings, and said, this is bogus, this is a lie, and it got stopped. Then we found out this was Joe and a handful of people. We caught wind of a closed-door meeting with the Board of Ed where they were going to gut the good sex education policy that we had in place in Onslow County. And we just showed up. We showed up and they said, okay, I guess we're gonna have to table this, and it never moved forward. And then we formed a PAC, and then we started vetting and endorsing people, and we flipped our board. We turned our Board of Education to a completely conservative board, and I'll tell you that is not the final solution, because there were definitely problems after that happened, but we were starting with people where we had a real ideological foundation, and we could work together on different issues. But there's a lot to it. There's layers of complexity, but the point is, it started with individuals who just decided that they were going to do something, and they showed up, and it made a difference. If everybody in this room, if we all decided to call our state representative in the North Carolina state, and then our federal representative, our congressional representative, if we just all did that in one day, if we all made one phone call and sent a letter, they'd have a meltdown. One phone call to them represents dozens and dozens of constituents. Just one phone call to say, hey, this bill here is good, thank you, but it's not enough. We need to move this forward. That's it, just one phone call. So that was the beginning of Onslow Protect Our Students. It started with the entrance of this bad sex education curricula coming into the county, and then once we were formed and we were active, then the floodgates just opened up. So it was just the whole Pandora's box of bad thinking that's been thrown at our kids. And so we were there already, and so we've started to take on those other issues, but our initial focus has always been sex education. And so that's a little bit of the backstory of Onslow Protect Our Students. So Tyrus, back to you.
All right, so if I could go to the vision slide, and I apologize for a very loud noise, which you may or may not hear from someone playing music out of their vehicle. So our vision is to unite, inform, and activate communities in North Carolina around God-given parental rights and the protection of students from all forms of indoctrination and coercion, especially in the matters of sex education, human sexuality, gender, and worldview. And so a key here is to unite, inform, and activate communities. What North Carolina Protect Our Students mission is to go into communities like Cape Carteret and Carteret County and Onslow County and start to work with churches, with anyone from any political divide who can unite around this. And from my experience and from Joe and Mike and the rest of OPA's experience, a lot of what is the big gap that is happening between the communities doing something and not doing something is actually information. It is knowing that they don't have, that right now there is injustice being done, and that right now that kids are being indoctrinated with bad ideologies. And so that's step one. Other step is resources. This is a resource heavy environment. You have the government education has taxpayer-funded doctorate individuals who sit up in the office and and there's amazing teachers, there's amazing principals. I'm sure there's fantastic people in district staff. However, the cards are all stacked against parents. They give their tax money to send their kids to these schools, and all that money gets used against them. And I've witnessed it time and time again. I'm so thankful for the families and parents that say, my kid has an amazing time. And I'm so happy about that. However, that's not the case for everyone. I get a lot of phone calls, a lot of issues. There's a lot of things. And 9 times out of 10, it is the weaponization of schools against parents. All right, and so I just want to switch to the overview section, and that'll be the overview slide. And so what we are trying to do is put county liaisons in every county around North Carolina. That's eventually, right? And obviously we're going to start with the ones that are going to be easier for us to reach. So the ones that are closer by. And why we went with the liaison model is I've seen very bad outcomes with chapters, having local chapters. They get bogged down in just little, personal politics, and they get bogged down from just having to form the committee and do all the just process stuff. And so what we're doing is we're finding people in each community, and we're those who are engaged and really active in this to be the point of contact for all of our resources. And I just want to preface everything that I'm saying with, we are not there yet. We just formed in June, and we've come a long way, but we have a long way to go. So everything I'm talking about right now is a long-term vision, and it is a 1 to 2 year vision of fully what we could be. And now some of these things will happen a lot sooner, and I'll tell you about those. So yeah, we want these liaisons, which Diane LeBlanc is our Onslow liaison that we just put in, and she is absolutely phenomenal. She's fired up about this, and she genuinely cares, has a heart for parents, has a heart for teachers, has a heart for the school system, and knows the importance of what we're trying to fight here. And so one of the ways that we want to activate communities is through events. And so this can look a number of ways. One of them could be town halls. One of them is a forum. We held forums, and we invited Democrats and Republicans to this forum. And we asked questions that we know that we need answered, that we believe are important. Because if you go to just the general town halls that are put on by the local government agencies and the kind of like para-government clubs and groups, what those end up being is the same thing over and over and over. There's a large bias to just establishment talking points. And we just, not to say that all of those are bad, but we just want to ensure that, if there's candidates that they're talking about the things that we care about and that we dig in. And so we were able to do that. And it was a phenomenon. We got some really good answers and some really revealing answers as well. And so that's what the forums are one thing. And then training. So pretty soon I'm working with getting training for opportunity scholarship training so that we can start teaching parents, especially in the churches, how to fill out opportunity scholarships, how to submit them. The NC legislature expanded opportunity scholarships. I'm sure many of you are aware, but they expanded the scholarships to allow for every student in North Carolina to get this scholarship, but you have to apply. It's not something that you get notified about. You have to jump through bureaucratic hurdles. And so we want to offer training so that we can protect students in that way, and that we can empower parents to be able to send their kids there with and provide you guys, you parents, with as much information as possible. So that's in the works right now. I'm just working out a schedule and timing for doing an opportunity scholarship training. And then a parental rights basics. So kind of like this training here, with a little bit more focus on giving parents the knowledge of, hey, what can you actually actively do to change the situation for not only your kid, but other kids. And this can be in the homeschool environment where the county school, someone at the district told you that your homeschool kid cannot do a sport for whatever reason. And so we have workarounds. We understand how to work through that. And so, different trainings like that. And those are kind of needs based. And so if we find a need, we find a lot of needs, I will absolutely tailor, or Diane will tailor a specific training for those things. So that's the event side of things, how we hope to achieve our mission through events in the local communities. And then the volunteer opportunities. So we are a nonprofit working to be a 501c3 nonprofit. And so everything except for a very little salary of my own is everything's volunteer. And I tell you that not only to be transparent, but then to also just show that we are putting the majority of the resources, 90% of the resources, towards helping communities protect children. And the volunteer opportunities are a Book Watchers Club. And so the Book Watchers Club is something that we will be partnering with the Pavement Education Project. And the Pavement Education Project has been in this space for a long time, but ultimately it's a group of community members who kind of monitor the in-school book offerings that are online. And so they monitor online for against a massive list of obscene books that all have ratings next to them. And so this group monitors them and puts them into a database to pretty much say, hey, this book is in this school. And so what we've done in Onslow, and we're still working out the kinks because it's new, but what we've done is split up between about 7 or 8 volunteers. We've split up all the schools in Onslow County, and each one of them is monitoring. And so I have a big list of books that's in Onslow County that are at the very least questionable, and the very most extremely obscene. And so we do have that list, and we are working on expanding it to other schools. And there are some technical difficulties. They don't make it super easy to find these books. Everything's split up by school. And so we are trying to bring some of the infrastructure into identifying these books and getting them out of schools. Volunteer opportunities can be event set up. So if there's an event in your local community, you just want to be like, hey, I can't commit to anything other than if I'm here, if I'm going to an event, I just want to help you set up. I want to help you, hold the camera. I want to take pictures, or I'll do this or that. And then a secretary, North Carolina Protect Our Students, we are looking for a secretary. So I wear a lot of hats right now, and that's great. But every second I'm not wearing my hat for my position to drive growth in North Carolina Protect Our Students and drive, some of these initiatives is another second we're just taking away from that. And so secretary would be, is something we're looking for on a voluntary basis. And then there's plenty of other things. I mean, God has given us amazing skills and gifts that we are to first benefit our local body and gift our local body with those gifts and be a part of that body, but then also to ensure that those around us, our community is next. And so I would ask that if you have some of those gifts and you feel like you can contribute, that you would. And so that's all I have for us tonight. And I'm so thankful that everyone here, painfully endured kind of the virtual presentation and the slide errors and everything like that. But I just want to emphasize that, just like Mike said, change happens because a couple people get together, a few people get together and do something. And so if we can start growing from a few people to more and more and more, the more change we will be able to have. And just for instance, because of my work in helping some of the parents, I actually was able to help the Blaze reporter for the Blaze investigative reporter who released an investigative report on Onslow County and what was going on in Onslow County. And so I was in a unique opportunity to be able to do that and connect these parents and give them, contact parents and ensure it was okay that I shared their info. But ultimately, without that, the board members can't do that. Board members are legally not allowed to do that. And without some sort of organization to kind of facilitate this, it's not possible. And so although that doesn't create massive change all at once, continuing on that progress will create change and will start to help our ability to shape what our taxpayer dollars go to. And ultimately, we are looking to end a lot of the negative worldviews that are being taught and pushed in our schools. So I think the situation with the audiovisual right now, it may not be best for me to answer questions, but I'm just going to go ahead and give you my email. I should have put it on the slide, but it's tyrus@ncpos.org. So if you have any questions, please, I ask that you reach out to me and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. But we do need your help and we ask for prayer as well. So if you can't do anything else, we do ask for your prayer in this. So thank you, everyone. I really appreciate your time tonight.
All right, thank you, Tyrus. And again, ncpos.org. North Carolina, Protect Our Students, ncpos.org. You can go there, you can contact us, you can sign up for the newsletters, you can contact Tyrus through there also if you want to do that, so feel free to go check out that website. I'm just going to share just some quick thoughts, and then we'll open it up for questions. So at that time, I'm going to give this handheld to Ray, and I'll move up to the podium when we make that transition, if we can do that. But there's just something I want all of us to consider. I had a real revelatory moment bringing my 10-year-old son to the doctors recently. And first thing was, they're like, everyone's always shocked when we bring him in because we never do. We needed to bring him in just to get a doctor's note for school, but by the grace of God, my children are healthy. But it's like, there's something wrong with that. It's like the doctor's office is like, "Oh, we never see your kids." And I'm like, good. They're healthy. They don't need to come see you. And they're just almost offended that my children are not in there more often. It's just so awkward. But that's not the thing that really got me. The thing that got me is the doctor telling me, "Oh, well, your son's starting to get older. He's going to have to come in and we're going to have a talk about some things." And I'm like, what things? What do we need to talk to my son about? And well, he's going to be a teenager, and so we need to talk about STDs and things and I mean, it was just it was such a shock. It really surprised me, and it's good that it took me a moment to just kind of recoil from that, and I didn't say anything to her in the moment. But I'm just like, excuse me? You need to talk to my son about one of the most precious and sacred realities of his human nature. You need to do that? A woman who I just met today, neither one of us have laid eyes on you before in our entire life, and now you're going to speak to my son about the danger of bad sexual choices. But that's where we're at. And one of the things that I've realized by being involved with what's going on in the Board of Education is that public education has become an altar of worship, and most people, even Christians, are willingly offering their children to it without even thinking twice. What's one of the indicators of this? One of the most recent evidences of how good-meaning people, who I honestly believe that they love Jesus, make comments like, Why is this woman, Michelle Morrow, running for superintendent of schools? She homeschools her kids. What does she have to do with public education? She homeschools her kids because she's taking responsibility for her children. And she's now saying, I want to serve the state to create a better situation for all of our children. And we had, think about this, if Compassion International showed up at the church and said, only parents can support a child, would that make any sense? And we start excluding people to do the right thing and to do good things for children. But when we talk about the public school system, if you don't have a child in the public school system, you are not eligible to say anything. What? But people just buy this. It's just been woven into the fabric of our current culture, and we're not even thinking about it. We're not even recognizing how ingrained this is in well-meaning Christians and conservatives. There's this concept of the public school system, and it literally has become an altar of worship, and people are sending their kids to it 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and not even thinking about the consequences of it. And so that's where we are right now. And so I want to invite you to think about that, to just begin to ask the Holy Spirit, help me understand where I have blind spots, where I'm not thinking about this the right way, and understand that we have the right to be engaged in this system, to demand that the right things are done. And we're taking steps in the right direction, but there's a lot more that needs to be done. And if anybody's going to tell you you don't have a voice because you don't have a child in the public school system, just, smile and nod, keep on doing what you're doing. Because it's ridiculous. But we've gotten to a place where this is how people are thinking. And so, with that being said, sorry I got on my little soapbox here, but that's kind of why we're here. So at least it's relevant. At least I'm not ranting about something else you didn't want to talk about when you came here tonight. But we do want to open it up for questions. So let's just see by a show of hands, do we have any questions from the audience? Yes, sir.
Can you turn the mic on too for the podium? Thank you.
Ray, just very quickly, is all these slides and all that stuff going to be posted and made available to us?
Yes. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and again, you can get in touch with us through the ncpos.org website and request material and other information as well about all the stuff tonight. And there's another set of slides on sex education that we'll send as well, with a little bit of the after stuff that Tyler's gone through.
Anybody have any comments or questions or? Yes, sir.
My name's Joe Marshall. This is my wife, Danielle. My wife's shuddering right now because I have the microphone. I have three little girls, Savannah, Katana, and Letty Mae, and they all go to Boguestown Elementary, and we're really pleased with that school. It's a great school. I don't have anything negative to say at all about that. We have our middle son went to, all of our sons but one went to Croatan High School. And I remember my, at the time, 17-year-old coming home, 16 at the time, and someone was able to dress like a cat on a daily basis. Like that was a thing, and so we have a tradition in my house. We sit down at dinner, we say the prayer, and then I go around the room and I ask how everybody's day is. And I'm a retired Marine too, and I'm from Eastern North Carolina, so I try to put in my mind the concept of that. Like I tried to look at how does anyone learn or foster a learning environment. And so my question is, does Tyrese, in this particular form, are they going to deal with some of those things? Because I feel like they're coming in my girls' age group. and I'm going to be very old and not very tolerant of it. And so that and pronouns and other things that I don't want anything to do with, because my wife and I have talked about kind of moving to a homestead where our parents are in Texas and possibly homeschooling, because we really don't want to deal with any of that. Does this organization in North Carolina, because I'm North Carolinian, this is my home state, does it deal or will it deal with things of that nature later on?
Yes, and so the short answer is yes. There are some, primary targets that we're focused on, but it is relevant because it deals with those different things. So the pronoun scenario is closely related to the other one. And so, yeah, the short answer is yes. People believing that they're different species and that we entertain in school is just, it's a little bit lower on the totem pole, some of the other stuff. But yeah, those are the types of things that need to be addressed in the school system. And so, like I said, we began really just focusing on the sex education curricula, and then, everything started coming down the line. So critical race theory, gender ideology, all of this. And so we're wanting to protect students from indoctrination. And, for those of you who are just saying, maybe you already do homeschool or go to a private school, like we can't just leave the public school system alone. My kids go to a private Christian school, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to be in this fight for the sake of the public school. Because again, what's happening? So if an entire generation of children are going to be indoctrinated, well, that's going to have very direct consequences for us when they get the keys to the car. And so we need to be taking measures to see, one, first and foremost, that the innocence and purity of children is not being defamed by the public school system. That's the first thing. But also, we want to do everything that we can to ensure a moral citizenry that's going to come behind us. And that's a big part of what this is as well. So, yeah, sure, you want to make the decision to homeschool your kids, great, but don't check out of this fight. Still be involved, still be informed.
And we are pretty lucky in Carteret County. A lot of the policies have already been changed to incorporate the laws that have been passed in the recent past. And there's, again, the policies, you don't have to go to the school board meeting in Beaufort. You don't have to drive all the way to Beaufort to see it. It's broadcast live on their website. It's recorded. You can look at it later also. Also in the agenda, if they're talking about a specific policy that they're going to approve, there's a link to that policy and you can look at it, you can pull it up. And I believe all the policies are actually on the website somewhere. But the ones they're specifically going to talk about that next meeting are you can look at it. And there's been times when I've gone to a meeting based on what they're going to talk about. After the Uvalde school shooting, there was a big push by a lot of parents and grandparents to increase the security of the schools. And a lot of people wrote letters, called the board members. I remember going to the board meeting. I think I was the only one who was there who talked, but it was backed up by the people who had called, the people who had written, and that was the meeting where Sheriff Buck had asked for money to put a school resource officer in every school. And at that county commissioner meeting, they went ahead and agreed that when they put a bill forward for capital improvements to schools, the first 10% has to be used for security. So that was me showing up at a meeting, the only one talking, and a lot of other people behind the scenes writing letters, calling, and it got done. So there's a lot of things like that. You all remember masks, right? There was there was a big group of parents who got together because of mask requirements. And so that's the kind of thing we need to continue to do is get behind issues, get the other parents and grandparents interested in this issue, and then take it to them as an issue and say, okay, we have a problem with this. We need to ensure this. So it definitely does work. Any other comments or questions by anybody? All right, well, thank you, Michael and Joe and Tyrus and all that. We do have, if you feel comfortable